A tiny bronze dancer holds a mystery 4,000 years old. This artifact comes from the Indus Valley Civilization, a society that flourished alongside ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, yet remains far more enigmatic. It was a land of immense cities without obvious palaces, a people who left behind a script no one can read, and a culture that achieved wonders we are only starting to appreciate. By the end of this journey, you will see this ancient world not as a forgotten ruin, but as a startlingly advanced and sophisticated society. We will uncover why their cities were engineering marvels and what caused their sudden disappearance. What does a truly advanced civilization look like to you? She stands just 10 centimeters tall, a young woman captured in bronze for over 4,000 years. This is the Dancing Girl of Mohenjo-daro, one of the most evocative artifacts ever unearthed. Discovered in a ruined building in the 1920s, she was found not in a royal tomb but in what seems to be an ordinary urban space. Her pose is instantly arresting. One hand rests defiantly on her hip, the other is draped loosely with bangles, and her legs are ready to move. She is not a static figure, she is a moment frozen in time, exuding a confidence that feels utterly modern. Who was she? This simple question sparks immense debate among historians. Some see a professional dancer, her slender limbs and poised stance suggesting a performer frozen mid-rhythm. Others argue she represents a goddess, her unashamed posture and ornate jewelry symbolizing a divine presence. Perhaps she was simply an ordinary woman of the Indus Valley, a testament to the everyday grace and spirit of her people. We may never know her true identity, and that is part of her enduring power. She is an individual, a personality that has survived the collapse of her entire world. Her creation is as significant as her mystery. This tiny statue was made using the lost wax casting technique, a sophisticated process that reveals a surprisingly advanced metallurgical society. Artisans would first sculpt her figure in wax, capturing every delicate detail from her piled-up hair to her multitude of bangles. This wax model was then encased in clay and fired in a kiln. The heat would melt the wax, leaving a hollow mold into which molten bronze was poured. Once the metal cooled, the clay shell was broken away, revealing the bronze figure within. This was not a primitive hammering of metal. It was a complex, multi-step art form requiring precise knowledge of temperatures and materials. Visualize this process, the careful hands of an ancient craftsperson creating a wax original, the intense heat of the furnace, the moment of revelation as the casting is revealed. The existence of the Dancing Girl forces us to reconsider the Indus Valley Civilization. They were not just city builders, they were master artists and metallurgists. She is a single, silent figure who speaks volumes about the skill, the culture, and the vibrant human spirit that thrived along those ancient riverbanks. While the Dancing Girl reveals a mastery of art, another site unveils an even grander ambition, a forgotten wonder of pure engineering. Far to the southeast of Mohenjo-daro, in a place now called Lothal, archaeologists unearthed something that should not have existed so long ago, a massive man-made dockyard. This was not a simple riverbank, it was a colossal basin, meticulously designed and built from millions of baked bricks, a harbor capable of sheltering large trading ships. The scale is staggering, a vast rectangular structure with walls thicker than a person is tall, connected by a long channel to an ancient course of the Sabarmati River, which then flowed out to the Arabian Sea. But its true genius lies in its hidden features. The engineers of Lothal incorporated a sophisticated lock gate system, a wooden barrier that could be raised or lowered to control the water level within the dock. During high tide, the gate would be opened, allowing deep-drafted ships to sail safely into the harbor. Once inside, the gate would be closed, trapping the water and ensuring the vessels remained safely afloat even as the tide receded outside. This is not primitive boat building, this is advanced hydraulic engineering, a concept the world would not see again on this scale for thousands of years. Close your eyes and picture this port in its prime. The air is thick with the scent of saltwater and timber. The dock is a frenzy of activity, with workers unloading cargo from sleek, ocean-going vessels. These ships would have been laden with unique goods, carnelian beads from distant quarries, stacks of precious teakwood, and bundles of vibrant cotton cloth, all produced in the Indus Valley's workshops. In return, these same ships would be loaded with goods from across the known world, perhaps copper from Oman or luxury items from the great cities of Mesopotamia. Cuneiform tablets from Mesopotamia speak of a land called Meluha, a place of exotic wealth, and many scholars are convinced they were speaking of the Indus Valley. Lothal was the gateway to Meluha, the bustling, cosmopolitan hub that connected an entire subcontinent to a global network of trade. This was not an isolated society, it was a commercial superpower, its economic reach stretching across oceans. The dockyard at Lothal forces us to completely rethink the capabilities of this ancient people. They were not just artists and city planners, they were master seafarers and global merchants, their ambitions literally carved into the landscape. The ambition of Lothal's dockyard finds its ultimate expression in the very heart of Mohenjodaro. Here, raised high on a massive mud brick platform, sits the Great Bath, a structure so perfectly engineered it has defied the elements for millennia. At first glance, it appears to be a simple, large rectangular pool, but every inch of its construction reveals a mind-boggling mastery over water. The bath was made completely watertight, a feat achieved by laying finely trimmed bricks set in gypsum plaster with a thick layer of natural tar or bitumen, carefully applied between the inner brick walls and the outer embankment. This triple-layered defense was so effective that not a single drop would seep through, but the genius did not stop at simply holding water. Surrounding the pool is a complex network of channels and drains, a system designed not just to fill the bath, but to empty and clean it with remarkable efficiency. A large, corbelled drain on one corner would have allowed the entire pool to be emptied, while smaller outlets along the sides managed overflow. The water itself was likely drawn from a dedicated, large well located in an adjacent room, ensuring a clean and controlled supply. This was not a stagnant pond, it was a carefully managed aquatic environment. So what was the true purpose of this immense effort? While many theories point to ritual purification, a sacred act of bathing, the sheer engineering sophistication suggests something more. Could the Great Bath have been an early, monumental experiment in public water management? A central, elevated reservoir that demonstrated how to control, store, and distribute a precious resource for an entire city. Some researchers have even proposed an astronomical function, noting the precise alignment of the structure and its potential use in observing celestial events reflected in its still waters. The construction itself was a monumental undertaking. The precise laying of millions of bricks, the sourcing and application of the tar, the intricate planning of the drainage channels, all of it speaks to a society with a unified vision and the technical skill to execute it. The Great Bath was not an isolated temple. It was the centerpiece of a sprawling citadel that included granaries, halls, and a college for priests or administrators. This was the core of their urban planning, a statement that water, cleanliness, and communal order were the foundations of their civilization. It stands as a silent testament to a people who did not just live with their environment, but who sought to command it with elegance and intelligence. Yet their most profound secret is etched in stone and clay, a silent language that has stubbornly refused to speak. Scattered across the ruins are thousands of small, square seals, most no larger than a postage stamp, each carved with a tiny, elegant script and the image of an animal. This is the Indus script, one of the last great undeciphered writing systems in the ancient world. The symbols themselves are a beautiful mystery, a mix of abstract signs and stylized pictures of fish, insects, and human figures. But the writing is incredibly brief, with the average inscription containing only 4 or 5 symbols. The longest text ever found has just 26 signs. This brevity is a core part of the puzzle, offering cryptographers frustratingly little data to work with. We do not even know for certain which direction it was meant to be read. The characters seem to flow from right to left, as impressions on clay show the scribe started on that side, but without a bilingual text, a Rosetta Stone that gives the same message in a known language. Every theory remains a guess. For decades, the world's best linguists and computer scientists have tried to crack this code. They have analyzed the script's patterns, the frequency of certain symbols, and their positions relative to one another. Powerful computers have been tasked with searching for any underlying grammatical structure, comparing it to every known language family from Dravidian to Sanskrit. Yet every proposed decipherment has collapsed under scrutiny. The script does not behave like any other known language, and without a much longer sample text or that crucial bilingual key, its meaning remains locked away. Imagine what we are missing. If we could read these tiny inscriptions, what would they tell us? Would they be the names of merchants stamped onto bales of cotton being shipped to Mesopotamia? Would they be invocations to gods, prayers to a unicorn-like creature, or a powerful bull depicted on the seal itself? Or are they something else entirely, perhaps a system of clan symbols or administrative codes that recorded taxes and harvests? The truth is, we do not know if they represent a full spoken language or a more limited set of labels. This single gap in our knowledge is a chasm. The ability to read their words would transform these silent ruins into a living world. We could finally hear their stories, understand their laws, and know their thoughts. Until then, the people of the Indus Valley remain just out of earshot, their voices a tantalizing whisper across 4,000 years. This obsession with precision extended from their grandest structures down to the most fundamental building block of their world, the humble brick. Across the entire expanse of the Indus Valley, from the largest metropolis to the smallest town, every single brick was manufactured to a single, unwavering ratio. The dimensions were always 4 units in length, 2 units in width, and 1 unit in height. This 4:1 ratio was not a suggestion, it was a rule enforced with astonishing consistency for over 700 years. Think of the sheer geographical scope from the shores of the Arabian Sea to the foothills of the Himalayas, a territory larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. In our modern world, we have international standards for everything from screw threads to credit card sizes, but we achieve this with global communication networks, regulatory bodies, and digital blueprints. The Indus Valley achieved a similar continent-wide standardization without any of that. The implication is staggering. It points to a central, unifying authority or a deeply ingrained cultural doctrine that dictated how to build. This was not a loose collection of independent cities. It was a unified civilization with a shared vision for its physical space. The advantages of this standardization were profound. It meant that a bricklayer from Mohenjo-daro could travel to Harappa, over 400 miles away, and immediately understand the local construction methods. It simplified logistics immensely, as bricks from different production centers were perfectly interchangeable. Planning large projects like the massive defensive walls or the elevated citadel platforms became a matter of simple multiplication, not complex calculation. The bricks themselves were masterfully engineered, meticulously fired in kilns to achieve a uniform strength and durability that has allowed them to survive for millennia. They were laid in alternating courses with headers, the short ends, and stretchers, the long sides, creating a strong, interlocking bond that gave their walls remarkable stability. This was not haphazard construction. It was a systematic, repeatable, and brilliantly efficient process. The 4:1 brick is a quiet, unassuming wonder, but it is perhaps the most telling artifact of them all. It reveals a society that valued order, planning, and collective action above all else. A civilization that literally built its world according to a single, perfect plan. This obsession with order and standardization, so evident in their bricks, found its most practical and life-saving expression deep beneath the streets of Mohenjo-daro. While other ancient empires built towering pyramids and glittering temples, the Indus Valley people engineered a wonder that was almost entirely hidden from view: a revolutionary sewer system. Every single house, from the most modest dwelling to the largest courtyard home, was connected to this underground network. From the second-story bathrooms, waste would flow down through vertical terracotta pipes set inside the walls, chutes that emptied into small sump pots or cesspits buried under the street. These pits were the first line of defense, designed to trap solid waste, allowing only liquid to seep out through porous jars into the main street drains. The main drains themselves were feats of engineering, constructed from those perfectly standardized bricks and covered with large, heavy stone slabs that served as the very pavement of the alleyways. This was not an open, foul-smelling gutter. It was a closed, managed system that kept waste out of sight and away from the people. The true mark of its sophistication, however, was the inclusion of something we consider utterly modern: manholes. At regular intervals, the covered drains would feature a small, circular opening that could be lifted away, allowing municipal workers to descend and clear any blockages that formed over time. This single feature reveals a society that planned for the future, understanding that even the best systems require maintenance. It speaks to a level of municipal foresight and social organization that was simply unheard of elsewhere in the world at that time. In the great cities of contemporary Mesopotamia, waste was often simply tossed into the streets or channeled into open ditches, leading to rampant disease. In Mohenjo-daro, the commitment to sanitation was absolute. This intricate web of pipes and drains was not a luxury. It was a fundamental pillar of urban life, a shared infrastructure that demanded and reflected an extraordinary degree of social cooperation. Every citizen had to follow the same rules, connecting their home properly and presumably contributing to the system's upkeep. The result was a vastly superior standard of public health, a city protected from the cholera and typhoid that plagued other ancient populations. This hidden labyrinth beneath their feet was a silent guardian, a testament to a civilization that believed a clean city was the foundation of a prosperous one. Amidst the thousands of carved seals, one stands apart as a theological puzzle. It depicts a single human figure seated in a pose we would instantly recognize today, legs crossed and heels pressed together in a perfect yogic posture. His arms are outstretched, resting lightly on his knees, and he wears a magnificent headdress crowned with what appear to be two large horns. He is surrounded by four powerful animals: an elephant, a tiger, a rhinoceros, and a water buffalo. Beneath his raised seat, two deer face each other. This is the Pashupati seal, and its meaning has been debated for a century. Who or what is this enigmatic figure? One of the most compelling theories identifies him as a prototype of the great Hindu god Shiva, specifically in his aspect as Pashupati, which literally means Lord of all animals. The connections are startling. In later Hindu tradition, Shiva is the supreme yogi, the lord of ascetics who is often depicted meditating in the mountains, master of the natural world. The animals surrounding the Indus figure could perfectly represent his dominion over the wild. The horned headdress echoes the crescent moon that always adorns Shiva's matted locks, a symbol of his control over time and the cosmos. The seal's imagery feels less like a simple tribal totem and more like a complex theological statement, a visual representation of a being who holds power over all of creation's most formidable creatures. Yet another school of thought suggests this is not a god at all, but a powerful shaman or a priest king. In this interpretation, the posture is not one of divine meditation but of ritual trance, and the animals are not subjects but spiritual allies or familiars. The shaman, through his ecstatic state, communes with the spirit of the elephant for strength, the tiger for ferocity, the rhinoceros for unstoppable power, and the buffalo for a connection to the primal waters and the earth. This view frames the Indus belief system as more animistic, where spiritual authority comes from a deep, personal connection to the forces of nature, a connection so profound it allows a human to sit calm and centered amidst the most dangerous beasts. The choice of animals is itself a profound clue. Each one represents a different aspect of the Indian subcontinent's ecosystem, and by extension, a different kind of power. The elephant symbolizes wisdom and royal authority. The tiger is pure, untamed ferocity. The rhinoceros embodies immense armored strength. The water buffalo, a creature deeply associated with Yama, the god of death in later Indian mythology, suggests a mastery over the very cycle of life and death. The two deer at the bottom only deepen the mystery, as deer are often symbols of gentle innocence and the seeking of spiritual truth in many Eastern traditions. Could this single, tiny seal be a philosophical diagram, a map of the entire natural and supernatural world? The parallels to later Hinduism are too striking to ignore, suggesting a cultural and religious continuity that may have survived for thousands of years, weaving its way from the Indus cities into the very fabric of Indian civilization. This small piece of carved soapstone holds within it the possibility that one of the world's oldest living religions has roots far deeper than anyone ever suspected. But the story of the Indus Valley is not confined to the sites we have already explored. Deep in the heart of Pakistan's Kholistan Desert lies a sprawling, enigmatic mound known as Ganwariwala. This is a true lost city, a metropolis that in its prime rivaled the scale of both Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, covering an area of over 80 hectares. Yet, unlike its famous counterparts, Ganwariwala remains one of the greatest untouched archaeological treasures on Earth. It is a forgotten wonder not because it is small, but because it has been almost completely spared the archaeologist's trowel. The reasons for its neglect are as harsh as the environment that surrounds it. Located in a remote and arid region with limited water and infrastructure, mounting a major excavation has always been a monumental logistical and financial challenge. The site itself is deceptively quiet, a series of massive, sun-baked mounds that rise from the flat desert plain. To the untrained eye, it might look like a natural formation, but satellite imagery and survey maps reveal the truth. The distinct geometric outlines of a major urban center are clearly visible from above, a ghostly footprint of a once great city. The grid-like pattern of streets and the raised platforms of a potential citadel are all there, just waiting beneath the sand. So what secrets does this sleeping giant hold? The potential is breathtaking. Because it is unexcavated, it has been protected from the weathering and brick robbing that have affected other sites. Its deepest layers could be perfectly preserved, offering an undisturbed time capsule of Indus life. Perhaps within its ruins lies the equivalent of a royal tomb, something never conclusively found at other cities, which could finally reveal the identity of their rulers. Maybe its warehouses hold intact trade records, or its temples contain statues and inscriptions that could finally provide the key to deciphering their script. The sheer scale of Ganwariwala suggests it was a third major capital, a powerful administrative and economic hub that controlled trade routes through the desert. Its discovery forces us to redraw the map of this civilization, revealing a network of powerful cities spread across a much wider area than previously thought. Every artifact, every building, every scrap of writing found here would not just add to our knowledge, it would fundamentally reshape it. Ganwariwala is the great unanswered question of the Indus Valley, a silent promise of revelations to come. This silent trade empire stretched from the deserts of Rajasthan to the bustling ports of Mesopotamia. The Indus Valley was the economic engine of the ancient world, a manufacturing powerhouse whose goods were coveted across thousands of miles. In the royal tombs of Ur, in what is now Iraq, archaeologists found treasures of lapis lazuli, a stunning blue stone that could only have come from a single source, mines in the distant mountains of Afghanistan. Yet there, alongside the lapis, were expertly drilled carnelian beads, their deep red hue etched with pure white patterns, a signature product of the Indus craftsmen. These two precious materials from opposite ends of the known world were buried together with Mesopotamian kings, proving they were part of the same vast trade network. The Indus people did not just have raw materials, they had an industrial capacity. Their workshops mass-produced beautiful, standardized goods, from delicate shell bangles to gleaming copper tools, and most importantly, a luxury the world had never seen: woven cotton cloth. While the rest of the ancient world wore wool or linen, the Indus Valley had mastered the cultivation and weaving of cotton, a lighter, more comfortable fabric perfectly suited for the hot climates of Mesopotamia and the Persian Gulf. Their ships departing from ports like Lothal were floating warehouses of innovation and luxury. But how do we know this was direct trade, and not just goods passed from one middleman to another? The proof is etched in stone and clay. In the ruins of Mesopotamian cities like Ur, excavators have found the distinctive square seals of the Indus Valley, carved with their mysterious script and animal motifs. These were not stolen goods, they were the calling cards of Indus merchants living abroad, stamping their identity on cargo or documents in a foreign land. Cuneiform tablets from Mesopotamia even speak explicitly of a land called Meluha, a place from which ships brought wood, carnelian, and gold. Meluha was the Indus Valley. Organizing this international commerce was a logistical miracle. Think of the coordination required to move tons of timber and cotton from the interior to the coast, load them onto ocean-going vessels that sailed the treacherous Arabian Sea, and then distribute the goods in foreign markets, all without a single horse or coin. The Indus people used bullock carts for land transport and a fleet of sturdy, reed-built ships for the sea. Their currency was not metal but trust and a system of standardized weights. Exchanges were likely based on barter and meticulously recorded using those same seals and a uniform weight system that ensured fairness from the Indus to the Euphrates. This was not random exchange, it was a managed, sophisticated economic system that connected continents, making the Indus Valley a central player in the first global age. The sheer scale of their trade and the precision of their cities makes their next great mystery all the more baffling. Where are the palaces? Where are the temples? In every other contemporary civilization, from the pharaohs of Egypt to the priest kings of Mesopotamia, the landscape is dominated by monumental structures celebrating the power of a single ruler or the glory of a specific god. Pyramids pierce the sky, ziggurats climb toward the heavens, and vast royal tombs are filled with golden treasures. But in the Indus Valley, we find none of this. There are no colossal statues of kings, no grand throne rooms, no lavishly furnished tombs, and no towering temples dedicated to a pantheon of deities. This absence is not an accident of archaeology, it is a deliberate feature of their society, a negative wonder that speaks as loudly as any pyramid. So what does this profound silence mean? One compelling theory suggests the Indus people built a uniquely egalitarian society, one where power was distributed and not concentrated in the hands of a single, godlike autocrat. The evidence is in their urban planning. Their most impressive constructions are not palaces for the elite, but public works for everyone. The Great Bath was a communal space. The massive granaries were for storing the city's food supply. The revolutionary sewer system served every single household. This was a civilization that invested its collective wealth and labor in infrastructure that benefited the entire community, not in self-glorifying monuments for a ruling dynasty. Their concept of leadership might have been corporate, perhaps a council of elders or a group of merchant guilds who governed through consensus rather than divine decree. Another possibility is that their monuments were simply made of different, perishable materials. Perhaps their grandest halls and most sacred spaces were constructed from wood or mud, materials that have long since crumbled back into the earth, leaving only their immense brick foundations behind. The large buildings on the citadel mounds at Mohenjo-daro and Harappa could have been assembly halls or administrative centers, their wooden pillars and thatched roofs gone without a trace. This theory, however, still does not explain the complete lack of royal iconography. Even if the buildings decayed, we would expect to find stone statues, inscribed tablets, or seals explicitly depicting a ruler receiving tribute or leading an army. We find none. This leads to a third, more philosophical idea. Perhaps their concept of divinity and power was fundamentally different. Their spirituality may have been more personal and less hierarchical, focused on domestic rituals and small, portable seals like the Pashupati, rather than on worship in a massive, state-controlled temple. Power may have been seen as a responsibility to the collective, not a right to be celebrated with giant statues. A ruler who blends into the population, whose authority is demonstrated through the smooth functioning of the city itself, is a radical notion in the ancient world. The greatest monument of the Indus Valley Civilization was not a single building, but the civilization itself, a testament to a society that perhaps believed true greatness was found in order, cleanliness, and shared prosperity, not in the glory of a single name. The absence of palaces finds a startling answer in a city that turned scarcity into its greatest strength. Far to the south, on a salt-flat island in the Great Rann of Kutch, the Indus people built their most audacious monument to survival, Dolavera. This was a city engineered for a land of extremes, where torrential monsoon rains were followed by months of brutal drought. To thrive here, they did not build temples to the rain gods, they became masters of the water itself. Their entire urban plan was a sophisticated machine for capturing, storing, and conserving every single drop of rainwater that fell from the sky. The scale of their ambition is still visible today, etched into the very bedrock of the island. They transformed nearly 1/5 of the entire city area into a series of 16 massive, interconnected reservoirs. Carved along the northern and eastern flanks of the settlement, these reservoirs were not simple ponds. They were monumental feats of hydraulic engineering, lined with precisely cut stone blocks and sealed with watertight lime mortar to prevent precious water from seeping back into the thirsty earth. The largest of these reservoirs is staggering, nearly 80 meters long and 12 meters wide, with stone steps leading down to its deepest point, a testament to the volume of water it was designed to hold. But the true genius of Dolavera lies not just in the holding tanks, but in the intricate network that fed them. The city was strategically positioned between two seasonal stream channels. During the brief, intense monsoon, these streams would swell with rainwater rushing down from the higher ground. The engineers of Dolavera did not let this water simply flow past and vanish into the salt flats. They built a series of massive dams and diversion channels to intercept this torrent. These stone and earthwork barriers would force the floodwaters into a carefully planned maze of feeder channels, directing the life-giving resource into the chain of reservoirs, filling them to the brim. This was a calculated, city-wide harvest. Every gutter, every drain, every open space within the city walls was designed to channel runoff toward this network. They even carved intricate channels directly into the rock of the citadel to capture water from its paved surfaces. For centuries, this system guaranteed Dolavera's survival. The water stored in these immense reservoirs would have been enough to sustain a population of many thousands through the long, rainless months, supporting not just drinking and bathing, but also agriculture and the city's thriving bead-making workshops. Dolavera stands as a monumental lesson in resilience, a city that did not merely endure its harsh environment, but re-engineered it through sheer intelligence and collective will, creating a wonder of sustainability that echoes powerfully even today. That same obsession with precision found its way into the smallest of objects, transforming a simple stone into a global luxury. The long, barrel-shaped carnelian beads of the Indus Valley are miniature masterpieces, their deep, blood-red color and crisp, white-etched lines making them instantly recognizable across the ancient world. Creating just one of these beads was a weeks-long ordeal of fire, patience, and incredible skill. It began with sourcing the raw carnelian, a type of chalcedony quartz, from distant mines in Gujarat. These rough, dull stones held no hint of the brilliance within. To unlock their fiery red color, the artisans performed a kind of alchemy. They would coat the raw stones in a thick, protective paste, then heat them in a specially designed kiln. This controlled firing process transformed the stone's internal chemistry, turning its pale, milky hue into a permanent, deep, and translucent crimson. Once cooled, the real work began. Shaping the bead required drilling a hole through the incredibly hard stone, a task that seems almost impossible with the technology of the time. They used a remarkable tool, a copper drill bit tipped with a harder material, possibly diamond dust or a specific type of abrasive chert. The drill was mounted on a bow, which the artisan would spin back and forth, using a steady, relentless pressure. Drilling a single, perfect hole through a 6-inch-long bead could take days of continuous, careful labor. The bead was then meticulously polished against a flat stone with fine abrasives, hour after hour, until its surface was as smooth as glass. But the final, magical touch was the etching. The artisans would paint intricate patterns onto the bead's surface using an alkaline paste, likely made from the sap of specific plants. The bead was then heated again at a lower temperature. This chemical treatment would burn the painted design permanently into the stone, leaving stark white lines against the vibrant red background, creating the famous geometric patterns, trefoils, and eye motifs that made these beads so desirable. These were not mere trinkets, they were a currency of prestige. In the royal cemeteries of Mesopotamian kings were buried with these Indus carnelian beads around their necks, a final, powerful statement of their wealth and global connections. For the Indus people themselves, owning such a bead was a sign of high status, a testament to one's place in a society that valued exquisite craftsmanship above almost all else. Each bead is a frozen moment of ancient labor, a tiny, perfect engine of trade that connected continents through beauty and fire. This obsession with precision demanded a universal language of weight and measure. Across the entire Indus Valley, from the largest city to the smallest village, trade was conducted using a single, flawless system of weights. These were not rough stones picked from a riverbed. They were meticulously crafted from chert, a hard, dense stone that resisted chipping and wear, polished into perfect cubes and truncated spheres. The consistency is breathtaking. A merchant in the port of Lothal used weights that were identical to those used by a shopkeeper in distant Harappa, over 400 miles away. They were so perfectly standardized that even modern replicas match the originals with an accuracy of less than 1%. This was not a loose suggestion, it was a rigid, continent-wide standard enforced for centuries. The system itself reveals a sophisticated mathematical mind. The smallest unit, the base weight, was equivalent to just over 13 grams. From this foundation, the system scaled up in a dual pattern, using both binary and decimal progressions. The weights doubled 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64 times the base unit, a system perfect for quick mental calculations. Then, for larger transactions, they shifted to a decimal system with weights of 160, 200, 320, and 640 times the base unit. This hybrid binary decimal system is a stroke of pure genius, allowing for both simple market haggling and the complex accounting required for international shipments of timber and cotton. Compare this to the systems of Egypt or Mesopotamia, where units often varied from city to city and were based on inconsistent natural objects like grains of barley. The Indus system was abstract, precise, and universal. It was the bedrock of their economy, ensuring that a measure of grain or a bundle of cloth had the same value everywhere. It made taxation fair and predictable, as the central authority could collect a fixed percentage of a harvest based on a known weight. It was essential for large-scale construction, allowing engineers to calculate the number of bricks needed for a wall or the volume of materials for a reservoir with absolute confidence. This silent network of perfect cubes reveals a level of administrative control and economic integration that was unparalleled in the ancient world. It was the invisible framework that held their entire civilization together, a testament to a society that believed fairness and order began with a perfectly balanced scale. These raised citadels were the undeniable hearts of every major Indus city. Perched high on massive mud brick platforms, these walled enclaves dominated the skyline, yet their inner workings remain a profound mystery. Were they fortresses, bastions of power designed to protect the elite from a restive population below? Or were they something entirely different, the administrative and spiritual engines of a society that defies our expectations? The architecture itself fuels the debate. These were not cozy palaces but sprawling, functional complexes. At Mohenjo-daro, the citadel mound is a labyrinth of large, austere rooms, vast open courtyards, and the commanding presence of the Great Bath. The sheer scale suggests a public purpose, a place for communal gatherings or bureaucratic management rather than private royal living. The thick, defensive walls surrounding them are formidable, but who or what were they defending against? There is no evidence of external invasion or internal warfare during the civilization's peak. Perhaps these walls were not for defense against armies, but for controlling access, for marking a sacred or administrative space as separate from the bustling commercial and residential lower town. Another compelling theory points to the massive, ventilated structures found on the Harappa citadel. For decades, these were labeled as granaries, vast storehouses for the city's grain. The raised floors and air ducts are perfect for keeping a large harvest dry and safe from pests. This interpretation paints a picture of a benevolent, redistributive state where the central authority collected and protected the food supply, doling it out to the people in times of need. The citadel, then, was not a symbol of coercive power but of communal security. Yet, some archaeologists now question this. Could these so-called granaries have been massive public halls, or even the foundations for great wooden buildings that have long since vanished? The absence of grand tombs or royal statues within these spaces is deafening. If this is where the rulers lived, why have we found no treasure, no depictions of their glory, no final resting places? This leads to the most radical idea of all. Perhaps the Indus people were governed not by a king, but by a council of elders or a class of merchant priests whose authority was so embedded in the system that it required no monumental boasting. The citadel, in this view, was the central processing unit for the entire civilization, a place where administrators using standardized weights managed the economy, where engineers planned the water systems, and where rituals in the Great Bath reinforced a shared cultural identity. Its elevated position was symbolic, a constant visual reminder of the order that underpinned their world. The true purpose of the citadels may be all of these things at once: a fortress without a war, a granary that fed a society, and a palace without a king. They stand as the ultimate expression of the Indus enigma, a civilization that invested its greatest efforts not in glorifying individuals, but in perfecting the system itself. A deep ache throbbed inside a tooth, a pain as old as humanity itself. But in a small village known today as Mohenjodaro, over 7,000 years ago, someone offered a solution that was anything but primitive. Within the remains of this ancient community, a precursor to the great Indus cities, archaeologists made a startling discovery: the earliest known evidence of dentistry in human history. They found human teeth carefully and skillfully drilled. The procedure was performed on living patients, not as a ritual but as a medical treatment, a deliberate attempt to relieve the agony of tooth decay. The drill bits were fashioned from sharp, durable flint, mounted on a bow that would be spun back and forth with meticulous care. Imagine the trust required, the steady hands of the healer, the courage of the person enduring this ancient operation without any modern anesthetic. This was not a crude attempt. The holes are perfectly rounded and smooth, targeting only the decayed part of the tooth to clean out the infection. This single act reveals a sophisticated understanding of human anatomy and a pragmatic approach to medicine. They recognized that disease could be localized, that a problem in a single tooth could be addressed without harming the rest of the body. This knowledge likely extended beyond dentistry. If they could drill a tooth with such precision, they probably possessed a wide range of other medical skills, from setting broken bones with splints to creating herbal remedies for fevers and infections. The act of dentistry is intensely personal, a moment of vulnerability and care that transcends the millennia. It connects us directly to an individual who felt pain and to another who sought to heal it. This forgotten wonder is a quiet testament to their compassion, a profound glimpse into the very human lives behind the bricks and seals. Of all the countless images carved by Indus hands, one appears again and again with a strange and singular focus. It is a powerful, bull-like creature, always depicted in profile with a single, curved horn sweeping up from its forehead. This is the so-called unicorn, and it is by far the most common motif found on their seals, appearing on a vast majority of the thousands discovered. Its sheer repetition is a message in itself, a symbol so central to their identity that it was stamped onto documents and goods with relentless consistency. But what animal are we actually looking at? It is unlikely to be a mythical beast. The sculptors of the Indus Valley were masters of naturalistic detail, carving perfect likenesses of elephants, tigers, and rhinos with stunning accuracy. This creature, by contrast, is stylized, almost heraldic. Many scholars believe it represents a bull, but a very specific one, perhaps the massive, now extinct aurochs. The single horn could be an artistic convention, a way to show the animal in profile without the second horn obscuring the body, a technique seen in other ancient cultures. Yet the level of stylization feels deliberate, transforming a real animal into a potent cultural icon. The mystery deepens with the object that always, without fail, is placed in front of the unicorn. It is a strange, ritualistic stand, often carved with rings and a flaring top, sometimes with a suspended bowl or a streamer hanging from it. This is not a feeding trough. Its elaborate design suggests a ceremonial function, an incense burner or an offering stand used in a sacred rite. The unicorn is eternally poised before this object, forever participating in a ceremony we can no longer comprehend. This inseparable pairing tells us the image was not merely decorative. It was a religious or political statement, a seal that perhaps certified an official's authority to conduct a specific ritual or to manage offerings. And above the scene always runs the short, silent line of Indus script. Is it the title of the official who owned the seal? Is it the name of the ceremony? Or is it a prayer, an invocation to the powerful spirit of the unicorn itself? The ubiquity of this single image hints at a surprising cultural unity. From the northern reaches of the civilization to the southern coasts, everyone recognized the meaning of the unicorn and its stand. It was a shared symbol that bound this vast civilization together, a visual language that may have been more important than the written one. Yet its very commonness is what makes it so enigmatic. The most important symbol of the Indus world is also the one we understand the least, a silent, one-horned giant guarding the gates to its meaning. This obsession with order was literally set in stone, etched into the very ground their cities stood upon. While ancient Rome is often credited with perfecting the grid, the Indus Valley had mastered it over 1,000 years earlier. Their cities were not the labyrinthine, organically grown warrens of Mesopotamia or medieval Europe, which twisted and turned around ancient pathways. They were meticulously planned from the foundation up, with wide, straight main streets running perfectly north-south and east-west, creating massive city blocks that were then subdivided by smaller lanes. This was not a happy accident. It was a deliberate act of urban genius that required breathtakingly advanced surveying skills. To achieve such precision across hundreds of acres, their engineers must have used tools like the groma, a cross-shaped instrument for sighting right angles, or perhaps a primitive version of the theodolite, carefully plotting the entire city before a single brick was laid. The result was a marvel of efficiency and foresight. These wide main arteries, some as broad as 30 feet, allowed for the smooth flow of bullock carts and people, preventing the claustrophobic congestion that plagued other ancient settlements. But the grid's true purpose went far beyond traffic. It was the skeleton upon which their entire hydraulic system was built. The gentle, consistent slope of the streets was engineered with meticulous care, all leading downward toward the covered drains that ran beneath every major avenue. When the monsoon rains came, the water would not pool in chaotic puddles, but would be channeled efficiently off the streets and into the sewers, keeping the city clean and dry. This layout also reflected a deeply collective mindset. The grid does not favor one neighborhood over another. It imposes a democratic order, suggesting that every citizen, from the merchant on the main street to the artisan in a smaller lane, was subject to the same rational plan. There were no royal processional ways leading only to a palace, no secret alleys for the elite. The entire city functioned as a single, integrated machine, a testament to a society that believed its greatest strength lay not in monumental chaos, but in perfect, harmonious order. That same mastery of materials extended from stone and brick to something far softer, yet equally revolutionary. The people of the Indus Valley were the world's first cotton farmers and weavers, a forgotten wonder that would eventually clothe the globe. In the ruins of Mohenjodaro, archaeologists found tiny, telling clues, the faint, ghostly impressions of woven fabric preserved on the backs of silver pots and on the reverse of clay seals pressed against bales of cloth. These delicate marks are the oldest direct evidence of cotton textiles anywhere on Earth, dating back over 5,000 years. They had taken a wild, scrubby plant with fluffy balls and through generations of selective breeding, transformed it into a reliable, harvestable crop. They then invented the entire process of turning that raw fluff into wearable fabric, mastering the arts of ginning to remove seeds, spinning thread with simple clay spindle whorls, and weaving it on wooden looms. This was not a sideline, it was a major industry that fueled their economy. While the rest of the ancient world sweltered in heavy wool or scratchy linen, the Indus people were producing a light, breathable, and comfortable textile perfectly suited for their climate and for export. The impact of this soft technology was as profound as any of their architectural marvels. Cotton became one of their most valuable trade commodities, a luxury item shipped from the docks of Lothal to the elite of Mesopotamia. A cuneiform text from that region even mentions a king being robed in cloth from meluha, a fabric that was undoubtedly cotton. This innovation did not die with their cities, it slowly spread, traveling through trade routes to eventually reach Egypt, the Mediterranean, and the rest of the world. Every cotton shirt, every soft sheet, traces its lineage back to those first fields cultivated along the Indus River. This was a different kind of monument, one not built from brick but grown from the earth, a testament to a civilization that shaped the modern world not just with its walls but with its cloth. Amidst the orderly streets and meticulous drains, another structure hints at a world of smoke and spirit. At sites like Kalibangan, archaeologists uncovered a series of unique brick platforms, each bearing the unmistakable scars of intense, repeated fire. These are not hearths for cooking or kilns for industry. They are fire altars, and their discovery ignites a profound debate about the spiritual life of the Indus people. Designed with a careful, almost geometric precision, these altars were often built in a specific U-shape or contained a central pit, all designed to contain and direct the sacred flames. Within their charred bricks, layers of fine ash and remnants of organic material were found, suggesting something was offered to the fire, not merely burned in it. The significance of this discovery echoes across centuries. It draws a direct, startling line to the religious practices of the Vedic people who would later compose the ancient hymns of the Rigveda. In the Vedic tradition, the yajna, or fire sacrifice, was the central act of worship. Priests would chant sacred verses as they poured offerings of clarified butter, grains, and herbs into a fire burning on a precisely constructed altar, believing the smoke would carry their prayers to the gods. The parallels are too powerful to ignore. Could the rituals performed at Kalibangan have been a precursor to this great tradition? The presence of these altars suggests a religion deeply concerned with purification and communion. Fire transforms, it consumes the physical offering and releases its essence into the air, a bridge between the human and the divine. The act of sacrifice implies a belief in powerful, unseen forces that could be appeased or petitioned. Was the fire a plea for rain, an offering for a bountiful harvest, or a ritual of purification for the community? The altars are often found in the elevated citadel areas, associating them with the most important spaces in the city, yet they are also present in smaller, domestic settings, hinting that this was a faith practiced both publicly and privately. This potential continuity challenges old ideas of a complete break between the Indus civilization and the cultures that followed. Instead of a foreign invasion erasing one people and introducing a new religion, we might be seeing a slow blending, an absorption of ancient Indus spiritual practices into the evolving tapestry of Indian belief. The silent, charred bricks of these altars do not just hold ashes, they hold the embers of a living faith, a ritual that may have smoldered for generations, connecting two worlds separated by time. Even in the quiet corners of their homes, the people of the Indus Valley nurtured a spirit of ingenuity and joy. Scattered throughout the ruins, archaeologists have uncovered a wealth of terracotta toys, simple clay objects that whisper of childhood and daily life. These are not crude lumps of clay, but carefully crafted miniatures, from tiny spinning tops and marbles to detailed animal figurines and clever whistles shaped like birds. Each one is a small, powerful testament to a society that understood the value of play. The sheer number of these toys reveals an economy stable enough to support craftspeople who specialized in non-essential goods. Parents had the means to purchase these simple pleasures for their children, suggesting a level of widespread comfort and prosperity that extended beyond mere survival. Perhaps the most telling of all these playthings are the miniature carts, complete with solid terracotta wheels and a hole for a movable axle. These were not static models, they were designed to be pulled along, their wheels turning just like the full-sized bullock carts that rumbled through the wide city streets. In creating these toys, the artisans were demonstrating a fundamental and practical understanding of physics, the principle of the wheel and axle that made their vast trade networks and urban logistics possible. A child playing with such a cart was, in a way, interacting with the very technology that powered their civilization. This vibrant toy culture paints a picture of a society that was not all work and grim industry. It had room for laughter, for the imaginative worlds of children, and for the simple, universal act of play. These fragile clay objects connect us across the millennia to the most human aspects of their world, reminding us that even in one of history's most disciplined civilizations, there was always a place for joy. Their world did not end with a bang, but with a slow, agonizing fade. Around 1900 BC, the great cities of the Indus Valley began to die. The meticulous order that had defined them for centuries started to unravel. Streets that were once swept clean began to accumulate rubbish. Houses were subdivided, with new, flimsy walls built across the grand main avenues, as if the old communal discipline had broken down. The sophisticated drainage systems fell into disrepair and were eventually blocked, a final, symbolic surrender to entropy. This was not a sudden, violent overthrow, but a prolonged decline that leaves us with a puzzle as deep as the one surrounding their script. The leading suspect in this ancient cold case is a dramatic shift in the climate. Geological evidence suggests that the monsoons, the lifeblood of the entire region, began to weaken and shift eastward. The land grew progressively more arid. This theory finds powerful support in the fate of the Gagahakra River, a massive, now dry riverbed that runs along the eastern edge of the civilization. Many scholars believe this was the mighty Sarasvati River described in later Vedic texts. Satellite imagery confirms it was once a colossal waterway, fed by Himalayan glaciers and monsoon rains. As the climate changed, the glaciers retreated and the rains failed, causing the great river to wither into a string of seasonal ponds and then vanish completely into the desert sands. Cities that depended on its water were stranded, their agricultural base collapsing. Some evidence even points to a more violent geological disruption. At sites like Dolavera, the ruins show signs of massive, sudden damage, with walls tilting and foundations cracking in a way that suggests a powerful earthquake. A tectonic shift could have diverted the very headwaters of their rivers, starving them of water in a single, catastrophic event. Yet other theories point to internal decay. Did their rigid, hyper-organized society become a prison? Perhaps the very standardization that gave them strength led to a brittle inflexibility. When faced with a crisis their system was not designed to handle, the entire social contract may have shattered. The breakdown of their vast trade network with Mesopotamia could have triggered an economic collapse, stripping the elite of their authority and leaving the cities without the resources to sustain themselves. The old idea of a violent invasion by outside forces has largely been discarded, as there is no evidence of widespread warfare or destruction in the archaeological record. The collapse appears to have been a slow-motion unraveling, a cascade of failures. People did not vanish, they simply drifted away. They abandoned the great, dying cities and migrated east and south, forming smaller, simpler villages. The grand vision was lost, but the people endured, their knowledge and culture likely blending into the fabric of the subcontinent. The silence that followed their decline is as profound as any of their wonders. A civilization that had mastered water, built continents of brick, and traded across oceans simply faded back into the earth, leaving behind a void in history and a mystery that whispers of our own fragility. The bones and bricks of the Indus Valley can only tell us so much, but a far more intimate record survives, carried within the very cells of millions of people today. Groundbreaking studies of ancient DNA are now tracing an unbroken genetic thread from that lost civilization directly to the modern populations of South Asia. This is not just a story of artifacts, but of ancestry, a living legacy written in a code we have only recently learned to read. The genetic evidence reveals that the primary ancestors of the Indus Valley people were a population of early farmers indigenous to the region, with roots stretching back to the first hunter-gatherers of the subcontinent. Their genetic signature forms a bedrock component in most people living in India and Pakistan today, proving that the civilization did not simply vanish without a trace. Its people did not disappear, they assimilated, their biological heritage woven inextricably into the fabric of the continent. This genetic data helps solve one of the great puzzles, their origins. They were not migrants from Mesopotamia or elsewhere, but a homegrown phenomenon that evolved over millennia from local roots, but the story does not end there. The same DNA studies also track a later, significant influx of genes from a very different group, pastoralists from the Central Asian steppes who began moving into the region around the time the great cities were declining. For decades, the theory of an Aryan invasion was used to explain the collapse, but the genetics paint a more complex and gradual picture. It was not a violent replacement, but a long process of mixing and integration. The modern South Asian genetic landscape is a tapestry with the deep foundational threads coming from the indigenous Indus farmers and later vibrant strands woven in from these steppe pastoralists. This explains the profound linguistic and cultural shifts that occurred, such as the introduction of early Sanskrit without requiring a genocidal war. The science allows us to move beyond simple narratives of invasion versus continuity, revealing a nuanced history of convergence. The true wonder is that you cannot understand the population of South Asia today without acknowledging the immense genetic contribution of the Indus Valley people. They are not a separate, lost chapter, but a fundamental part of the prologue to our modern world, their biological story still being told in the silent, living code of human DNA. Off the coast of modern Gujarat, beneath the waves of the Arabian Sea, lies a mystery that challenges the very map of the ancient world. For decades, marine archaeologists have surveyed the waters near Dwarka, finding structures that seem anything but natural. They have documented massive stone blocks, some weighing many tons, arranged in geometric patterns that resemble foundations and protective walls. These are not random boulders, but what appear to be the remains of a planned settlement, now submerged in the silt and sand. Among the stones, divers have recovered artifacts that whisper of a deep past, including ancient pottery shards and, most intriguingly, a stone anchor with a hole drilled through its center, identical in design to those used by other Bronze Age seafaring cultures. The central, heated debate revolves around one question: how old is this sunken city? Some researchers, pointing to carbon dating of the artifacts and the geological evidence of coastal subsidence, argue that the site could be over 3,500 years old, placing it squarely in the time frame of the Indus Valley Civilization's maturity or its subsequent decline. They propose this was a major port, a sister city to Lothal, that served as a gateway for trade and a testament to their maritime prowess. Other scholars are far more cautious, suggesting the structures could be significantly younger, perhaps from a later historical period, and have no connection to the Indus people at all. They argue that without a definitive artifact like a seal with the classic Indus script, the link remains speculative, yet the possibility is intoxicating. If these ruins are indeed from the Indus era, they would force a dramatic rewrite of history. It would mean their civilization was even more coastal and maritime than we ever suspected, with major urban centers built directly on the ocean's edge. This would expand their known territory and suggest a society so confident at sea that they dotted their coastline with fortified ports. The legend of Dwarka, a glorious city swallowed by the sea as described in later Hindu texts, could then be a distant, fragmented memory of a real Indus port that met a catastrophic end, perhaps from a sudden rise in sea levels or a massive tectonic event that sank the coastline. Discovering a confirmed Indus city underwater would be the ultimate proof of their reach, a sunken wonder waiting to reveal its secrets to the tides. But beyond the toys, the artisans of the Indus Valley poured their creative spirit into a different kind of terracotta art, a vast array of figurines that give silent, expressive faces to this ancient people. These small, fired clay sculptures are found everywhere, from the foundations of houses to the debris of public spaces, depicting a world of animals, people, and perhaps even gods. The most iconic of all is the hump-backed bull, a creature captured with such powerful, economic lines that its strength and vitality feel immediate, even after 4,000 years. But there is also a profound focus on the human form, particularly female figures molded with a striking blend of abstraction and detail. They are often adorned with elaborate headdresses and heavy belts, their wide, curving hips suggesting a deep, symbolic importance. The skill required to create them was considerable. Each one began as a simple lump of clay, hand-modeled with a sensitive touch to capture the proud arch of a bull's neck or the gentle sway of a woman's posture. Before the firing process, artisans would add intricate details using sharp tools, incising patterns for jewelry or punching dots for eyes, giving each figure a unique personality. Then came the alchemy of the kiln, where controlled heat transformed the soft, fragile clay into a durable, permanent object, a snapshot of a cultural obsession. So what was their purpose? Were these female figures mother goddesses, symbols of fertility and abundance for a civilization dependent on the land? Their ornate features and exaggerated forms do echo later religious iconography. Or were they more personal, perhaps votive offerings left at a household shrine, a prayer for health or children made physical? They might not be deities at all, but simply depictions of everyday women, their distinctive style reflecting a cultural ideal of beauty and strength. The hump-backed bulls, so vital to their agriculture and transport, could have been symbols of wealth or objects of devotion themselves. The true meaning of these terracotta figures is as layered as the clay they are made from. They are not grand monuments, but intimate, accessible artifacts. In their handmade imperfections and expressive simplicity, we see a culture speaking through its craftspeople, leaving behind a gallery of faces and forms that feel both mysteriously distant and unexpectedly, intimately human. The dust has barely settled on the wonders we have already found, because the overwhelming truth is that we have only just begun to scratch the surface. Of the nearly 1,000 known Indus Valley sites, a staggeringly small fraction, less than 10%, have seen even a basic archaeological excavation. The vast majority remain as silent, unopened time capsules, their stories still sealed beneath the earth. This means the single greatest wonder of this civilization may not be any object we have already recovered, but the sheer, breathtaking potential of what remains to be found. What incredible revelations are still waiting for the touch of a trowel? One of the most sought-after discoveries would be a royal tomb. The complete absence of lavish burials is a defining mystery of this culture. Finding a single, undisturbed royal sepulchre, perhaps hidden beneath the citadel of a place like Ganriwala, would be transformative. It could finally reveal the faces of their rulers, show us their concept of an afterlife, and present a treasure of artifacts that would rewrite our understanding of their wealth and power. Or perhaps we will one day uncover their equivalent of a library, a sealed room filled not with tiny seals, but with large clay tablets covered in long, continuous passages of their script. A single such find, a bilingual text pairing their symbols with a known language, could be the master key that finally unlocks their voice, allowing us to read their laws, their poetry, and their history in their own words. Another dream discovery lies beneath the waves or buried in the silt of a dried-up river. Imagine uncovering the intact hull of a seafaring vessel, preserved in the mud of Lothal's dockyard or off the coast of Dwarka. Such a ship would tell us exactly how they built their trading vessels, what goods they carried, and how they navigated the open ocean. The greatest discovery of all, however, might be something we cannot even conceive of yet, a technology, an art form, or a concept that completely shatters our current image of the ancient world. The story of the Indus Valley is not a closed book. It is a narrative with most of its pages still blank, an epic poem waiting for its next verses to be unearthed. The true final wonder of this civilization is its enduring silence, a quiet promise that the most profound chapters are still buried, patiently waiting for their moment to speak. Their world was a tapestry woven from equal parts genius and mystery. We have walked through their planned cities, marveled at their underground sewers, and traced the routes of their ocean-going ships. We have stood before the silent challenge of their undeciphered script and felt the human connection in a child's terracotta toy or a skillfully drilled tooth. These 25 forgotten wonders, from the perfect brick to the global cotton trade, reveal a civilization that defies easy categorization. They were engineers of water, masters of material, and architects of a society that for centuries thrived on a principle of collective well-being over individual glory. Their absence of palaces and their focus on public works suggest a social contract utterly unique in the ancient world. Yet for all we have uncovered, the fundamental questions remain. Who were their leaders? What did they believe? What stories are locked within those tiny, elegant seals? The Indus Valley Civilization stands as a monumental puzzle, a reminder that history's most profound lessons often come not from the loudest conquerors but from the quietest ruins. Their legacy is a haunting echo of a different path humanity once took, a path built on order, cleanliness, and breathtaking ingenuity. So we turn this final question over to you. Of all these wonders, which one captured your imagination the most? Was it the confident dancing girl, the revolutionary dock at Lothal, or the silent promise of the unexcavated city of Ganriwala? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you are eager for more journeys into history's greatest puzzles, be sure to subscribe for our next exploration.